Ursula von der Leyen loses on all counts in the Pfizergate legal case. In other words, she's guilty. She is now obligated to show exactly how she negotiated with Pfizer for vaccines through text messages during the COVID-19 pandemic. But let's rewind a bit to explain what's going on. Back in 2021, Europe was desperate for COVID-19 vaccines, and Ursula von der Leyen, as president of the European Commission, stepped in. She negotiated a deal with Pfizer, Europe's biggest vaccine contract, and she did it partly over text messages. Yes, actual SMS messages between her and Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla. Now, this deal was massive. By August 2023, the Commission had secured up to 4.6 billion vaccine doses at a very considerable price, with around 71 billion euros worth of contracts. And here's the problem. When journalists asked to see those messages under EU transparency rules, the Commission said they were lost. Gone. Super suspicious. And this obviously sparked outrage. MEPs demanded answers. Transparency watchdogs raised alarms. And the New York Times actually sued the Commission in the Court of Justice of the European Union. That's how serious this became. Fast forward to now, and the General Court, the lower court within the Court of Justice of the European Union, has ruled against the Commission completely. The judges said the public has a right to know how this deal was made, and that includes von der Leyen's text messages with Pfizer's CEO. So, what happens next? Well, we see three possible scenarios. Scenario number 1, the Commission miraculously finds the texts and releases them, which brings us to two possible outcomes. 1A, the messages are pretty harmless. Some of the heat might die down, but the damage is done. People will still ask why it took years to release them, and whether something was being covered up. Even if the texts are clean, the delay looks super suspicious. But worse is option 1B. The texts are damaging. They could show that von der Leyen personally negotiated vaccine contracts, got a little too cozy with Pfizer, maybe even came under pressure from them, or completely sidestepped formal EU procurement rules. None of that looks good for her. She could face serious political fallout, public backlash, fresh investigations in the parliament, and anger from national governments, especially those already critical of the vaccine deal's cost. In a very worst-case scenario, it could trigger a vote in the parliament. And if 2/3 of MEPs vote to remove her, she and her entire commission are out, plunging the EU into political crisis. This brings us to scenario 2. The Commission claims the texts are deleted and cannot be recovered. This will then result in a different kind of scandal. It becomes a story about transparency, or rather, the lack of it, and a lot of talk about a possible cover-up. Things will likely escalate once again. Media and watchdogs like the New York Times or Corporate Europe Observatory could ramp up legal pressure. The courts might issue financial fines, and the European Parliament could once again launch an investigation. And yes, there is the nuclear option, where MEPs could vote von der Leyen out of office. And this brings us to our final scenario. The Commission appeals the ruling. In the Court of Justice of the European Union, the General Court is the EU's lower court, and the Commission has 2 months to appeal to the higher court, the European Court of Justice. But appeals aren't easy. They'd have to prove a legal error, not just disagree with the outcome. This would delay the verdict and potentially buy time for the defense, or even an alternative scenario we didn't think of. Here's what I think. This is not a good look for von der Leyen, and frankly, it shouldn't be. Making multi-billion euro deals over WhatsApp or SMS, and then conveniently losing the messages? That's not leadership, that's damage control. And honestly, deleting those messages feels less like carelessness and more like they're trying to cover themselves. That being said, I will defend her on one point. Back in early 2021, the EU was lagging behind the US and the UK in getting vaccines. I even remember it today. And at that time, delays literally meant more lives lost. So yes, von der Leyen was under pressure to deliver something or anything fast. As for what's most likely to happen next, my bet is on scenario 3. The Commission will appeal. And if they lose again or don't get the appeal, then it's probably scenario 2. We'll see fines, we'll see public scrutiny, but von der Leyen being removed from office? Honestly, that's very unlikely. It takes a 2/3 majority in the European Parliament, 480 votes, and since von der Leyen comes from the biggest group, the EPP, removing her would require almost all other groups to unite against her. I have a very hard time seeing all the Social Democrats, the Greens, and the Liberals all going that far. But hey, let me know what you think in the comments. And if you want to see what we think of Brexit and why we would be more powerful together, check out this video here. And to support us further, consider joining us on Patreon and vote on video ideas every week. Thank you so much to our presidents, Jan Schauke, Christian Peter, AGVD, BJ Unite Europe, Stefan, and Mr. Probot. See you in the next video.